Is there a truly reality out there that humans can really know? It's an age-old battle between realists and absolutists. God is not great, how religion ruins everything. And yet it's utterly and totally ridiculous. We need to live for something beyond ourselves. You know, it's hard to guess the amount of money, the billions spent on things to make us look better. You want better hair texture, there are 1,000 products for it. You want better hair color, there are 1,000 products for it. You want better skin, there are 1,000 products for it. You know, the whole advertising world functions on the simple idea. It has to make you think you're missing something in life. There's something that you need, and that product will help fulfill that need. Because one of our greatest fears is fears of rejection. I mean, who hasn't in their own life experienced sense of rejection, a sense of alienation? You know, there's a story that I read in the paper a while back that really brought this home, that was powerful to me. There was a small party in a big city somewhere. In the suburbs, a bunch of people were sitting around having a barbecue, eating, drinking, doing what people would do on a nice hot summer afternoon. Then suddenly, out of the blue, a man jumps over the fence with a mask and a gun, and he grabs a 14-year-old girl, holds the gun to her, and tells everybody, "Okay, give me your money." Well, they're horrified, and they start giving him the money and so on and so forth, and they're collecting it. And then at one point, one of the women there walks over to the thief with the gun, and she says, "Would you like a drink? You know, it's very hot." After a few moments' hesitation, the thief says, "Yes." And so she hands him a drink, which he gulps down. Then he was offered some food, and he took the food. And at one point, while eating, he actually slipped the gun in his pants. After heartily eating and drinking, he looked at the people and said, "You know, I think I came to the wrong house." Then, to everyone's astonishment, he looks at him and says, "Can I have a hug?" A hug? This thief says, "Can I have a hug?" They were astonished. Well, what happens, one by one woman comes over and gives him a hug, another woman comes over and gives him a hug, and then he says, "Can we have a group hug?" And within a moment, all these people that he was robbing, they all gave him a hug. And after that, he turned around, put the food away, and left. Nobody was hurt, didn't take anything. So when it was all over, no one was done, nothing was stolen. Instead, some outcast, somebody who was a criminal, some kind of societal outcast, he had, at least for a few moments, felt a sense of exception. And that story made the front page of a newspaper in the States, and I think it illustrates an important point. It illustrates a point that as human beings, we all have this desire for acceptance. We want to be loved. We want to be appreciated. We want to be considered important. And yet, we don't always get it, do it? People sometimes disappoint us. I sometimes say to someone, if you're really looking for loyalty and you want affection, get yourself a dog. A dog, because you can be pretty sure a dog is going to be loyal to you. Anybody else, anything else in this life, in this world, you can't really trust it. And see, what makes it harder for us today is that the overarching scientific view of reality has us basically as nothing but highly developed pond scum. You know, we're just evolved by chance with no one or nothing behind it, and we're moving toward a purposeless end. That's the one main point of the whole evolutionary model. See, for years, many people, based on the influence of Aristotle, and I think Aristotle was right, he said that Everybody looked for, they call it a teleos, a purpose. Life had a purpose. Life was moving for a purpose. The camera I'm looking at, that has a purpose. The lights here have a purpose. My finger has a purpose. The air has a purpose. Everything has a purpose, a teleos. Well, modern science comes along, modern evolution comes along and rejects that notion. There is no teleos, there is no purpose, there is no direction, there's nothing other than survival. That's what the Darwinian model tells us. Evolution is a non-directed process. It's not really going anywhere in particular, and we're just here basically on a ride on a road to nowhere. Think of what a difference the few centuries has made. At one point, Isaac Newton, when he was in Cambridge, he talking about his work in nature, and he cried out, he said, "Oh God, I think thy thoughts after thee. I think thy thoughts after thee." Now, you jump ahead a few centuries later. Stephen Hawking sits in the same chair at Cambridge that Isaac Newton had when he was there. And we heard not Newton, "I think thy thoughts after thee, O God." What did Stephen Hawking, what does he say? Quote, "The human race is just a chemical scum. The human race is just a chemical scum on a moderate-sized planet orbiting around a very average star in the outer suburb of one among hundreds of billions of galaxies." What a contrast in views. One sees us part as a creation made by a creator God who loves us, cares for us, and even died for us. The other view, one very common today, places us here as mindless products of chance alone, as beings who are not created with any purpose in mind whatsoever. So what a difference in perspective. One view has us the creation of a loving God, another as pure chance creation, pure chance. So you any wonder that people sometimes have a feeling of rejection, have a sense of meaningless in their life and purposeless in their life? It's not hard to imagine, is it? Let me read you a quote from the Bible, because this gives a completely different perspective. Jesus says in the book of Matthew, "Are not two sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from the will of your Father. And even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. So don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows." Can you see here the significance, the sense of the importance of the individual? We, you, I, each one of us, we matter before God. It's an outrageous claim, I admit it, especially such a big universe. But it's so fabulous, so wonderful, so full of hope and promise that it's really worth checking out. Don't you think? I mean, you got one view, we're here, we're the products of pure chance. Nobody saw us coming, nobody cared that we were coming. Our lives in the scheme of things mean nothing. And then the other view is that there's a God who watches even the sparrows, and this God watches us as well. So there are two contrasting views here. The view which says, we're nothing, we're not created for any purpose, we're just here. And one, this fabulous one, this outrageous claim that there's a God who created us and who loves us as individuals. And I would say, hey, which one do you think is true? And don't you think it's worth, particularly if the second one is true, if the second one is true, there is a God who is watching us, who does care for us. Doesn't it make a lot of sense to seek to maybe find out for yourself if that's true, and to understand what that means and maybe what that God offers you? Certainly something worth thinking about, if nothing else.